Hello and welcome to TVC News Investigates. I'm Ni Uyilo. Even in death, Nelson Mandela's image still looms large in the South African fabric. His statues adorn many parts of the country, and many state and local roads and landmarks are named after the Madiba. The state and private organizations are preserving the memories of this great South African leader beyond people's minds. In today's edition, Lara Omonijo in this documentary titled Mandela House, Relics of a Great African, takes us to South Africa and on a tour of the house where the Madiba lived before his imprisonment and slightly after. That has become a depository of sorts for anything Mandela, and that archives the physical side of these memories.
The southwestern townships, popularly referred to as Soweto, is globally known for the 1976 uprising, when massive protests followed the South African government's decision to make Afrikaans, rather than English, the language of instruction in township schools. The late South African president and anti-apartheid fighter Nelson Mandela had strong ties with Soweto. This predominantly black African community was his home for many years. The Mandela House, as it is now fondly called, is strategically positioned at number 8115 Vilakazi Street, Orlando West in Soweto. It was here that the late Madiba lived with his family from 1946 to 1962. This red brick bungalow has now become a public heritage site owned by the Soweto Heritage Trust, with Mandela as its founder and trustee. The history, heritage and legacy of the Mandela family is preserved in this house turned museum. Hundreds of tourists from around the world visit the museum daily to feel the late icon's life and times. A fee of between 5 to 60 rand, that's about the United States 50 cents to $5, is charged for admission depending on the tourist's status. Tour guides are also on hand to educate visitors on the building and items displayed within it. Jane, who prefers to be called a Kuna Matata, a Swahili expression meaning no problems, offers to take me around the house.
Mandela was from the royal family. His father was the chief and it's hereditary. So here the picture of his mama. She passed away the time Madiba was in prison and they refused for him to go to the funeral, and he said it was the greatest pain he ever felt.
An array of awards, certificates as well as photographs of the late Mandela family members adorn the walls right from the door. It was here I met Rosie, who traveled all the way from Australia. Rosie draws much inspiration from the Mandela story, and for her, being here makes the inspiration all the more real.
Learned a lot about how the time he spent in jail and the time before he was in jail that I didn't know much about. I know more about since he was released from jail. That's sort of the history of him that I know. So I learned a lot about before and then when he was in jail. To me, he is a hero of equality. He's about everyone being equal and their own ability to be the best that they can be.
An old cast iron Caledonia stove occupies a little space in what used to be the kitchen just beside the living room. This teenager says she would love to go home with it, probably because she thinks it was used to cook the late Madiba's meals.
His stove. His stove.
What do you like about the stove?
The way it was so vintage-like.
Would you like to take it home if you have the chance?
I'd love to.
But Jane says very few items in this building are originally owned by the Mandelas. She tells me nearly all personal belongings were destroyed when the house was set ablaze during the apartheid struggle.
The thing is, this house during the struggle was put on fire, so most of their original belongings were destroyed. There's a table, 2 chairs and a sideboard are original. They said before the fire, Mama donated the furniture to another family not far from here. So the people who are in charge now, because Papa donated the house to the Soweto Heritage Trust, so they negotiated with the family, so they bought them back.
In his book, The Long Walk to Freedom, Mandela describes this house as the center point of his world, a place to which he yearned to return after his release from prison. This desire indeed became a short-lived reality. This is the room which the late Nelson Mandela slept before he went to prison. He returned to sleep in this room after his release, but could only sleep here for a few days as his fellow South Africans, who were desperate to catch a glimpse of their hero, would not leave him alone.
Before he went to prison, this is where he lived. Then after 27 years in prison, maybe he didn't know how famous he had become. He came back to this house. People used to come, maybe it was too much for him, then he left after his release, just 11 days.
In another room just opposite Mandela's bedroom, souvenirs, trophies, letters written while in prison, memorabilia, gifts of foreign currency, and more are displayed in glass shelves.
We've got memorabilia, awards that were given to Madiba and Mama Winnie for their contribution. They're from all over the world during the time of the struggle. The time he was in prison, Mama Winnie, who was wife number 2, was here, and she continued with the struggle, because I normally say 156 people were arrested, charged with treason, but Madiba became famous because of Mama continued with the struggle.
A World Boxing Championship belt given to the late anti-apartheid fighter by Sugar Ray Leonard is locked behind this glass. So also are these boots, to which many tourists are attracted. They long to put them on just to imagine what it would feel like being in Mandela's shoes.
I'd like the boots. They should give me the boots.
Why the boots?
I don't know. I just feel like it's something I can step into.
His boots, his military boots. Yeah, he walked in those shoes.
At the back of the house is a small sitting area for relaxation, and close to it is a tree which is by no means ordinary. This is the Meleluka tree just behind the Mandela house. This tree has a lot of significance attached to it because the umbilical cords of the children and grandchildren of the late Nelson Mandela, who were born in this house, are buried just beneath this tree for cultural reasons.
It was planted by him, Mandela. It is their culture, African culture. The reason for that, they introduce them to the soil, to the ancestors, because when we die, we go back to the soil.
Many visitors to the Mandela house never met him in person, but admit this experience has brought them closer to the late leader. They say all that has been seen shows he was as normal as anyone else, but went the extra mile to achieve his dreams. The late Madiba's quotes and those of his family members inscribed on the walls are sources of motivation as well.
He actually sat in the same chair that you're sitting in right now. But then he was extraordinary. So it just reminds me that, you can come from Soweto or wheresoever, but you can be a legend like Nelson Mandela.
It gave me determination that there's nothing difficult to achieve. There's no problem that you cannot achieve in life. Been in prison for many years, and at the end, he came back to life to be the president of this country. It's a very good experience for me, and I'm determined also that one day also I can free my country, from poverty and from corruption.
He was born July 18, 1918. I was born July 18, 1981, and that attachment is there for me.
This is just a feel of what I've seen in the movie, Long Walk to Freedom. I felt it here, just here. It's I'll call it a personal memory because a great man once lived here, and I believe it's something that I should take a cue from.
It's all about personality and forgiveness, It's about the feelings that you have for your country that always give you the potential to rise up, no matter how the challenges may be enormous.
The daughter-in-law and granddaughter of Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf have come all the way from the United States to catch a glimpse of the Mandela story.
Being a part of another powerful family, President Sirleaf, it's just as equally powerful as being here. I don't know, I can't explain the feeling you get when you're standing in Mandela's home. My dream was to come here, and the family made it. But the fact that they lived here, this is their home, this was their private, it's open to, their private life is open to the public, they're welcoming you pretty much, you're saying, this is my life, experience it with me. It's great. You get the concrete, if I may, knowledge, of who Mandela was. You can see the physical items, you touch it, you're here where he stood. It's more powerful than reading it in a book, in a textbook,
It's such a great relationship with my grandmother, and I knew about that, so I feel like I knew him. Just all the tourist sites we saw, the tree with the umbilical cords buried underneath, and I've never heard of that tradition, so I learned something new today. That was great. The bedroom, the kitchen, the small little kitchen with the stove, all the photographs, and so it's great.
One cannot help but notice the huge presence of children in this vicinity. Some are on excursion while others are here with their parents. This mother, for instance, has brought a 7-year-old son, Thiran, on a sightseeing visit. She says the hardship which the late leader endured to actualize his vision is a big lesson to these young ones on the importance of living right.
Now we are all fortunate to have all the luxuries and modern conveniences, so I expect them to appreciate what they have more and not take things for granted and just expect things to be done. I mean, looking at this house, and then Nelson Mandela was president. This is a little house, and to realize what the family had to go through in this small space. They always had people here, extended family, and there were times when while Nelson Mandela was in prison and Winnie was imprisoned as well, so the kids were alone, and just for them to understand those kind of things that they had to go through, and it was pain and suffering that the family had to endure in that time.
Little Thiran, on his part, describes the late Mandela as his role model.
He was the first black president. He won a Nobel Prize for fighting for freedom.
The tourists say they're ready to take the Mandela message of hope, determination and resilience back to the people around the world who may not have had the opportunity to visit the museum.
My friends are waiting to see the photos, to listen to my account of what I've seen, the fact that I've walked the path, the doorway that he has walked through. I'm a teacher, and so my friends that are professors are looking forward to listening and hearing my amateur documentary of Mandela's home.
For an African, visiting Mandela's house is a real opportunity. It tells you that you're an African. It makes you proud of being an African, because Mandela represents the greatness of Africa, the richness of Africa. And an African should be proud that he's an African, in spite of the challenges that we have. And by knowing the history of Africa and knowing that you're an African, it tells you that the future is bright for us.
It's just an excitation that, you know, we are growing as young people and we have endless of opportunities that will make us be better and greater. We want to urge other young people out there, do something for yourself. If you're young, you know, you can do it.
I think that we should all aspire and inspire to be like Nelson Mandela. We should try, for the sake of our children, our children's children, to keep Africa united. I think that is what this is all about.
I take away determination. That's whatever I lay my hand upon, I can achieve. Yeah, determination.
They believe this will help their friends and families beat the odds and achieve all they want in life. This is in line with one of Mandela's quotes, that there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living.
And that's our program for today. We look forward to your comments. You can email us at investigate@tvcnews.tv. I'm Ni Uilo. Thanks for watching.